Hello, this is Tushar Govil and welcome to my YouTube channel Accessibility Talk. Topic of today's video is understanding and testing WCAG 1.4.10 Reflow, which is a success criteria that falls under WCAG level AA. First, we will see what is Reflow. Reflow ensures that users can enlarge text and other related content without having to scroll in two dimensions to read. First is when lines of text extend below the edge of a viewport, the users will be forced to scroll back and forth to read by line. This can cause them to lose their place and can significantly increase both physical and cognitive effort. Why does it matter? People with low vision who use browser zoom rather than the screen reader, it will help them. The problem is that horizontal scrolling is significantly harder for those with visual or motor impairments. It requires tracking back and forth for single line of text. Keeping track of one's place in a paragraph becomes nearly impossible if the user has to scroll left and right constantly. To pass 1.4.10 success criteria, the content must reflow at vertical scrolling or a width equivalent to 320 CSS pixels, horizontal scrolling or a height equivalent to 256 CSS pixels, and we need to make sure that no loss of content is there. All text, images and functionality must remain available. For example, a desktop menu might reflow into a mobile hamburger menu. There are few exceptions as well to this rule, that horizontal scrolling is allowed only if the two-dimensional layout is essential to the meaning. Some of them are data tables, like large spreadsheets where cell relationships are lost if stacked. Carousels, as long as each individual panel within the carousel can fit within the 320 CSS pixel viewport, it will pass the criteria. Maps, geographic data that requires spatial context, interfaces like complex toolbars like photo editor or games, and images, detailed diagrams or photos where zooming into parts is necessary. So these are few exceptions to this 1.4.10 reflow rule, that these are not required to be fit into 320 CSS pixel width. Now we will understand why the requirement is for 320 by 256 pixel only. So the logic is that WCAG working group used a standard mid-range desktop resolution of 1280 into 1020 pixels as the baseline for testing. So for width 320 pixel, if you take 1280 pixel wide screen and zoom in it into 400% level, the viewport becomes 320 pixels wide. Similarly for height, which is 256 pixel, so if you take a 1024 pixel high screen and zoom into 400%, the viewport becomes 256 pixel high. So by requiring the site to work at 320 pixel wide, the WCAG is ensuring that a user can zoom into their desktop browser to 400% and still has the content reflow into a single column, rather than having to scroll left and right for every line of text. So this is the main idea behind this reflow requirement of WCAG. It also has a phone connection. Interestingly, 320 pixels also happens to be the width of many early smartphones like the iPhone 5. By setting the reflow standard at this width, the WCAG effectively bridged the gap between magnification accessibility and mobile responsiveness. If your website is built using RWD, which is responsive web design, to work on a small phone, then it will almost always pass the reflow requirement for desktop Zoom users. Now we will understand why there are two different numbers for width and height, like 320 pixel for width and 256 pixel for height. So 320 pixel for width is used for languages that scroll vertically, like the English, Spanish or Arabic. It prevents horizontal scrolling. And 256 pixel for height is used for languages that are written and scroll horizontally, like some traditional Chinese or Japanese layouts. It prevents vertical scrolling. So the ultimate goal is to eliminate the two-dimensional scrolling. Scrolling up and down to read is fine. Scrolling left and right to read a single line is disorienting and increasing the cognitive load. So we want the content to be adjusted into single column so we can scroll up and down to read, but not required to scroll left and right to read a single line of sentence. Now we will understand the difference between the two terms. What is a browser window size and what is a browser viewport? The window size is the total area occupied by the browser application, as you can see in the left hand side of the image given, while the viewport is a specific area within that browser window, that is where the content actually renders. Now how we can set the viewport, because all these uh, pixel dimensions we are talking about are for viewport. So now we will see there are two options to set the required viewport. Option number one is launch the browser, for example Google Chrome, open DevTools by right clicking and selecting inspect option, then click toggle device toolbar button, select dimensions equal to responsive and set the size to 320 by 256 pixel, and you will, this is the option how you can see set the viewport of 320 by 256. Now we will come on to option number 2, how we can set the viewport. We will see in the second option. Launch the browser, for example Google Chrome, open DevTools by right click and selecting inspect option, undock the DevTools into a separate window by clicking the button. Using mouse, resize the whole browser window to desired pixel size, and when you resize by dragging using the mouse, you can see that the pixel size, the viewport size renders on the top right corner of the browser window, as you can see highlighted in this screenshot. So viewport size appears on the top right corner while resizing. You can also re-verify the same by going into uh, the web developer Chrome browser extension and click on to resize and then click on to display window size, and as it's shown in this image you can see that it will show you the window size and the viewport size. So these are the two options how you can set the viewport of a browser to 300 and to the required uh, pixel size. Now we will see how to set the viewport to 256 pixels. Earlier were the two options where we saw how to set the viewport. Now we will see how we can set the viewport to given required criteria, that is 320 pixel wide and 256 uh, 320 pixel width and 256 pixel height. First, set the viewport to 1280 by 1024 pixel and zoom in into 400% using browser zoom. Or second option is set your viewport to 640 by 512 pixel and then do the 200% browser zoom. Or the third option is keep the browser at 100% zoom and set your viewport to 320 by 256 pixels. So these are the three options that will give you same result as you are setting your viewport to 320 by 256 pixels. Now after setting the viewport to 320 by 256 pixel, what you will verify that the web page is passing the reflow requirement. Number 1, no horizontal scrolling. For most languages written left to right, there should be no horizontal scroll bar when the viewport is 320 pixel wide. The user only need to scroll vertically. So make sure no horizontal scrolling is required when your viewport is set. Number 2, no content loss. Verify that no text, images or buttons disappear. A common failure is using display none for mobile views to clean up the layout, which may inadvertently hide essential information. So make sure there is no content loss when your viewport is changed to a reflow requirement. Number 3, no functionality loss. Ensure that all the interactive elements are still accessible and usable. For example, a desktop navigation bar might turn into a hamburger menu. That is fine as long as the menu works. So the idea is that you can move the functionality to be available into other under another menu, but make sure that it is available in reflow mode and is accessible. And there should be no functionality loss due to that. Number 4, last but not the least, no overlapping or clipping. Verify that text does not bleed into other containers or get cut off or truncated by the edge of the screen or other elements. So there should be no overlapping or clipping or truncation of the text or information. So this is how you will set the viewport of a browser window and how you will test the reflow requirement. Hope this video is informative to you and helps you understand the reflow requirement and how we can test. Thank you for prioritizing accessibility, and I will be back with another video, or you can also let me know in comment section which topic you want to cover in the next video. Till then, goodbye, take care.